I don't talk much, mister. The rancher looked at her and said, you're hired. She buried her father with a rusted shovel and no priest. The grave sat crooked under a sky too wide to care, dirt piled high like a wound that wouldn't close. Sweat rolled down her temple, mixing with dust that clung like shame. She didn't cry. Not then. Not with the coyotes already circling just beyond the scrub, their yellow eyes glinting in the dying sun. She was 17. Her name was Mercy Calloway. And the man who'd ridden up on a black gelding, watching from the ridge with a cigar clenched between yellow teeth, he was Silas Granger. Sheriff. Land baron. The kind of man who owned water rights and women's silence in equal measure. He didn't dismount. Just tipped his hat slow, like he was tipping a coffin lid. Girl, he called, voice dry as cracked leather. You ain't got no kin left in this county, do you? She didn't answer. Just gripped the shovel harder. Her knuckles white. Her boots caked with red earth. He chuckled. Not warm. Not cruel. Just, certain. Like he already owned the answer. You're hired. 3 words. No contract. No pay named. Just the clink of spurs as he turned his horse and rode off toward the horizon, where the wind carried the scent of sage and gun oil. She stood there until the stars came out. Until her arms trembled. Until the silence between the coyote howls grew thick enough to choke on. Why him? Why now? And why did those 3 words feel less like salvation, and more like a sentence? The ranch house smelled of boiled beef and old wood smoke. Inside, the walls were lined with rifles, not for show, but for use. Cleaned. Oiled. Hung low enough for quick grabbing. Mercy slept in the loft above the kitchen, on a cot that smelled like mothballs and loneliness. Below, Silas sat by the fire every night, boots propped on the hearth, reading ledgers by lamplight. He never asked her to sit. Never offered her coffee. Just pointed, to the stove, the wash basin, the mending pile. She obeyed. Quiet. Efficient. Eyes down. But she watched. Always watched. She noticed how he never drank from the same glass twice. How he slept with a Colt under his pillow. How he flinched, just once, when the church bell rang 12 miles off, its echo thin and ghostly over the plains. One night, she found a photograph tucked behind the clock. A woman. Young. Smiling. Hair like spun wheat. Dead eyes in a faded ink. Mercy didn't touch it. Didn't ask. But she memorized the shape of that smile. The curve of the neck. The way the light caught her collarbone. Because Silas looked at that photo every night before blowing out the lamp. And every night, his hand shook. What had he done to her? Or, what had she done to him? The first time she rode out with him, the sun was a white-hot brand on the back of her neck. He gave her a mare, bony, stubborn, named Dusty. She bites, he warned. And she don't like men. Mercy nodded. Said nothing. Mounted up. Rode beside him for 3 hours without a word. They checked fences. Scared off buzzards from a dead steer. Passed a dry creek bed where bones gleamed like broken promises. At noon, he stopped. Pulled a canteen from his saddlebag. Took a long pull. Then tossed it to her. She caught it. Drank slow. The water tasted like tin and heat. She handed it back. He studied her. Not her face. Her hands. Blistered. Raw. Still gripping the reins like they might vanish. You don't talk much, do you? He asked. She shook her head. Good, he said. Words get folks killed out here. A mile later, they found the first body. Half buried in sand. Face gone to buzzards and beetles. Wrist still cuffed to a rusted wagon wheel. A bullet hole clean through the temple. Fresh. Too fresh. Silas didn't flinch. Didn't kneel. Just spat. Another fool who thought he could steal my cattle and live. Mercy stared at the cuff. Engraved. Fancy. Not rancher stock. Not outlaw either. Sheriff's Department issue. Her stomach turned. Who was this man she worked for? And how many ghosts rode beside them? That night, rain came. Hard. Cold. The kind that turns dust to mud and mud to quicksand. Mercy lay awake, listening to the roof groan under the weight of it. Downstairs, Silas paced. Boots heavy on floorboards. Muttering to himself. Cursing the storm. Cursing the dead. Cursing something older, deeper. She crept to the edge of the loft. Peered down. He was standing by the window, staring out into the black. Rain streaked the glass like tears. In his hand, the photograph. He traced the woman's face with a thumb. Rough. Tender. Tortured. She knew, he whispered. So soft, Mercy almost didn't hear. She knew what I was. Then, a knock at the door. 3 sharp raps. Not polite. Not lost. Demanding. Silas froze. The photo dropped to the floor. He moved fast. Snatched his rifle. Blew out the lamp. Motioned Mercy back with a sharp jerk of his chin. She retreated. Silent. Heart hammering against her ribs. The knock came again. Louder. Impatient. Silas cracked the door. Just enough. A voice, slick as oil, cut through the rain. Sheriff Granger. We need to talk about your inventory. Mercy didn't see the man. Didn't need to. She knew that voice. Knew it from whispers in saloons. From wanted posters nailed to post offices. From the way dogs went quiet when it passed. Jedediah Crow. Bounty hunter. Scalp collector. Man who'd once skinned a man alive for talking back. Silas didn't answer. Just stood there. Rain dripping off his hat brim. Crow chuckled. You got 10 seconds to invite me in, or I start counting bodies. The wind howled through the hollows. Mercy's fingers found the knife under her pillow. Cold steel. Sharp edge. First time she'd ever held one with intent. What was Silas hiding? And why did it smell like blood? Morning came gray and wet. Crow was gone. No tracks. No note. Just a single bullet casing left on the porch. Nickel-plated. Fancy. Meant to be found. Silas didn't speak at breakfast. Didn't look at her. Just shoveled eggs into his mouth like he was burying something. Mercy ate slow. Watched his hands. Noticed the tremor again. Stronger now. After chores, he saddled up. Told her to stay. She nodded. Didn't argue. The moment he rode out, she went to his desk. Pried open the bottom drawer with a butter knife. Inside, ledgers. Maps. And a small velvet box. She opened it. A wedding ring. Gold. Simple. Engraved inside, to my Eleanor. Forever ain't long enough. Eleanor. The woman in the photo. Beneath the ring, a folded letter. Seal broken. Ink smudged. She unfolded it. Silas, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And you let them take me. You chose the land. Chose the law. Chose your damn pride. I hope it was worth it. I hope you choke on it. Mercy's breath caught. She wasn't just working for a sheriff. She was living with a man who'd let his wife die. And someone, Crow, knew. That night, Silas didn't come home. Mercy waited. Fed the horses. Patched a hole in the barn roof. Checked the rifle. Cleaned the knife. Sat by the fire until the logs turned to ash. Midnight. Still nothing. She stepped outside. Looked west. Saw smoke. Not campfire smoke. House smoke. She saddled Dusty bareback. Rode hard. No saddle. No hat. Just the wind screaming in her ears and the moon pale as a scar above her. She found the homestead burning. Not Silas's. Hers. The cabin where she'd buried her father. Where she'd slept alone for 3 nights before Silas found her. Now, flames licking the sky. Timbers groaning. Sparks dancing like devils on the wind. And standing in front of it, silhouetted by fire, Crow. Hat low. Coat open. Revolver gleaming at his hip. He turned as she rode up. Smiled. Teeth too white. Too even. Evening, darlin'. You're just in time to watch it burn. She didn't speak. Just slid off Dusty. Took 3 steps forward. Stopped. Why? She asked. First full sentence she'd spoken in weeks. Crow chuckled. Because your boss didn't pay his debts. And because you're the only leverage he's got left. Behind him, something moved in the flames. A shape. Human. Tied to a post. Mercy's blood turned to ice. It was Silas. Alive. Barely. Shirt torn. Face bloody. Eyes swollen shut. Crow tipped his hat. Heard you don't talk much. Shame. Last words are always the sweetest. He drew his revolver. Slow. Theatrical. Aimed it at Silas's head. Mercy didn't think. She moved. Knife first. Thrown from the hip. Spun end over end. Buried itself in Crow's thigh. He screamed. Staggered. Fired wild. The bullet whined past Mercy's ear. Shattered a burning beam. She was already running. Grabbed a fallen branch. Swung it like a club. Caught Crow across the jaw. Heard teeth crack. He went down. Cursing. Bleeding. Reaching for his gun. Mercy kicked it away. Stomped on his wrist. Heard bone snap. Then, silence. Just the crackle of fire. The moan of the wind. The wet, ragged breathing of a broken man. She turned to Silas. Cut his bonds. He collapsed into her arms. Smelled like sweat and blood and smoke. Why? He croaked. Why'd you come back? She didn't answer. Just dragged him toward Dusty. Loaded him onto the mare. Tied him tight. Mounted behind him. Rode east. Toward dawn. Toward nowhere. Behind them, Crow's screams faded into the night. But not before he shouted one last thing. She was mine before she was yours, Granger. And I always collect. Mercy didn't look back. Didn't need to. She knew now. Eleanor hadn't just been Silas's wife. She'd been Crow's lover. And Silas hadn't just let her die. He'd handed her over. They rode for 2 days. No food. No water. Just the sun beating down and the wind scraping their skin raw. Silas drifted in and out. Mumbled names. Apologies. Curses. Mercy didn't speak. Didn't stop. Just kept riding. Kept him upright. Kept him breathing. On the third morning, they found a spring. Small. Hidden. Water clear as glass. She washed his wounds. Bound them with strips of her own dress. Made him drink. Slow. Steady. He looked at her then. Really looked. Eyes clearer. Sharper. Haunted. You shouldn't have come, he said. She met his gaze. Held it. You shouldn't have let her go. He flinched. Looked away. Said nothing. She stood. Walked to the edge of the spring. Watched her reflection ripple in the water. Saw her father's eyes looking back. Saw Eleanor's smile. Saw Crow's teeth. She turned. Who was she to you? Mercy asked. Really? Silas closed his eyes. Swallowed hard. My redemption, he whispered. And my ruin. He told her then. All of it. How he'd been a drunk. A gambler. A killer for hire. How Eleanor, preacher's daughter, soft hands, harder heart, had saved him. Married him. Built the ranch with him. Believed in him. Until Crow came. Charmer. Liar. Snake in a silk vest. He seduced her. Promised her cities. Silk dresses. A life beyond dirt and death. She believed him. Ran off one night. Took Silas's best horse. His savings. His soul. He tracked them. Found them in a border town. Confronted Crow in the street. Gun drawn. Crow laughed. Said Eleanor chose him. Said Silas was too broken to love. Silas lowered his gun. Walked away. Thought that was the end. It wasn't. Crow sold her. To a brothel in Santa Fe. Told her Silas abandoned her. Told her he never loved her. She wrote him that letter. Begged him to come. He didn't. By the time he changed his mind, rode 3 days straight, she was gone. Dead. Overdosed. Or stabbed. Or jumped. No one knew. Just another body in a back alley. No name. No marker. Silas buried an empty coffin. Put her photo behind the clock. Let the guilt eat him alive. Until Mercy showed up. Quiet. Broken. Familiar. Like Eleanor. But stronger. Like her, but not. A train whistle echoed far off. Lonely. Long Mercy stared at him. At the man who'd let love die for pride. You're worse than Crow, she said. He didn't argue. Just nodded. And for the first time in 10 years, he cried. They buried him under a mesquite tree 2 days later. No marker. No prayer. Just rocks piled high and a canteen left full beside the mound. Silas didn't die from his wounds. He died from the truth. Told Mercy everything. Then drank from a bottle he'd been saving, poison, not whiskey. Said he'd carried it since Eleanor's funeral. Waiting for the right moment. The right witness. She didn't stop him. Couldn't. Watched him choke. Watched him gasp. Watched the light leave his eyes like a candle snuffed by a careless hand. When it was over, she took his revolver. His hat. His horse. Rode west. Not running. Hunting. Crow was still out there. Still breathing. Still collecting. She found him in a saloon in Rattlesnake Bend. Playing poker. Laughing loud. Wearing a new coat. New boots. New scars. She walked in at high noon. Sunlight cut through the batwing doors. Dust motes danced like ghosts. Crow looked up. Smiled. Well, if it ain't the quiet one. Come to finish what you started? She didn't answer. Just drew Silas's revolver. Slow. Smooth. Like she'd done it 1,000 times. The room went silent. Cards froze mid-deal. Glasses paused halfway to lips. Crow stood. Hands open. Innocent. Now, darlin', the gunshot cracked the silence. Once. Twice. 3 times. Center mass. Left eye. Right knee. He dropped like a sack of grain. Didn't scream. Didn't beg. Just stared at her. Confused. Betrayed. Like he couldn't believe she'd actually do it. She stepped over him. Took the velvet box from her pocket. Placed it on his chest. Inside, Eleanor's ring. Engraved. Forever ain't long enough. She turned. Walked out. No one followed. No one spoke. Behind her, the saloon piano started up again. Off key. Nervous. She mounted Dusty. Rode out of town. Didn't look back. Not once. They say she rides still. Hair long. Eyes harder. Voice gone quiet as a grave. Some say she's hunting Crow's kin. Others say she's looking for Eleanor's grave. Most say she's just running, from the law, from the past, from the silence that follows a gunshot. But once a year, on the anniversary of Silas's death, a single rose appears on his unmarked grave. No footprints. No horse tracks. Just the rose. Fresh. Red. Thorns sharp as regret. And sometimes, if you're out there late, under a moon too bright to sleep beneath, you might hear it. The whisper of hooves on hardpan. The creak of saddle leather. The sigh of a woman who doesn't talk much, but remembers everything. Far off, a church bell tolled. She didn't stop. Didn't pray. Just rode. Into the dust. Into the dark. Into the story that never ends.